I hope everyone's doing well and welcome back to another weekly outlook. So, as you guys remember in the last weekly outlook, we were speaking very much about the FOMC decision that was coming up on Wednesday, right? So last Wednesday. And what's happened is they've gone through with the rate cut. We knew there was a rate cut coming. The question was, it's going to be 25 or 50 points. They've gone with 25 points, dropping from 4.5% to 4.25%, right? As you guys can see here. And of course, what that's meant on the DXY for us last week was after that decision, we had a decent kick down, or rather just before that decision actually came in expectation for that rate cut, price kicked down quite hard, and then we started getting this retracement through the week. So where do we go from here? Now, of course, it's, how would I put it, confirm the sentiment is the way I would like to put it. You know, the rate cut was expected. Literally everyone expected it. It's finally happened, and I think it started that cycle of more and more upcoming rate cuts. I would expect next month to also have a rate cut, right? Now, one thing I don't like is that the weekly candles closed with a massive sweep and gone back in the range, not giving us much. Now, this wouldn't be a major issue because I do like the daily chart. I don't think the daily chart's horrible, and we're currently in a position on EU using this OTE, and we've actually got quite a good entry, quite deep in the OTE, and we're expecting it to turn around. But what's a little bit off-putting here is this weekly close and how close we are to the previous candle, right? Is there a chance it could sweep this? Of course, you have to consider the proximity. Now, this doesn't mean I'll be leaving my position. I do think it's a great setup. I do think, this sort of kick was sponsored by news. I do think this is a good OTE, and there's a chance we can sweep that previous weekly high just even deeper into that premium, and then from there get our reversal, which is what we're looking for, right? I do think overall the DXY will be bearish. We have no reason to believe that it's gonna, magically from here kick up here somewhere or do anything too crazy. And even when we come out to a monthly chart, it's not giving us any reason to think, we should be bullish from here. I would only expect expansion in this direction here. The only thing that's on my radar is potentially, of course, when next week opens, the previous weekly high getting swept and potentially the candle past it because of how close they are. Ideally, it doesn't because we are in that position. So, cool. We'll go over to the bond yields first. What we're seeing and what we liked, and once more what we expected, was that this range kicked down. We expected it to kick down, build that area for us to be able to retrace into. And what we're seeing very nicely here is accumulation and manipulation move into this premium, and we're expecting further distribution to the downside, very similar to the DXY. So overall, if we zoom out a little bit, what we'll see is just that constant, move between premium discount. And what's happened is we've actually stayed just above that equilibrium for a little while now. We've got that kick below. So it wouldn't surprise me if from here we start pushing further down towards the next sort of sell side target here. Look at Euro GBP today. Very good kick up. It's good for our EU position. We've got a very, very slight sweep on the previous weekly low, as we can see. We actually have some good order flow on the daily that we like to see, right? Price has given that OTE, kicked up, order block, IO fed, and then kick up again. I would not expect this low to go. I would anticipate the euro to continue having strength, and I would anticipate that it pushes towards these buy side targets that we have marked out on Euro GBP. On Euro USD, you guys can see this the position. We've hit it roughly somewhere in between the 0.62 and the 0.705. We're almost practically catching the low of this candle on Thursday. And as you guys can see, it's actually faring a lot better than the DXY. The DXY is probably somewhere almost down here. And Euro USD is just about halfway through that discount area. It's not even got to the 0.75 yet. So if it maintains that strength long enough for DXY to make that reversal, then we'll be in a very good position. And in terms of targets, of course, you're targeting the OTE high, but past that, long term, we've swept these highs, but I would say they're still pretty equal. It makes for this current high being a very nice target. And past that, we can start aiming for these singular candles over here, sweeping into this fair value gap, I would say. about there. Not too bad. USDCAD, not much to work off of. We did say last week it's looking decent. It still does look decent if I'm being honest. It's just not giving us much of a kick. It's come to the OTE here on the daily, right? And potentially if somebody did want to align, it wouldn't have been a bad spot to hit from here and cover that high, right? Similar to the DXY. But you know, if you didn't get in, if you're waiting for that further confirmation, it's not bad at all. You can wait for it to take this low, cover this new high that's been created, essentially sell stop this low, cover this high. What that would look like as a position would be something like enter on the break of this low. You can, you know, if you're confident, you can enter a little bit early. Let's say you enter somewhere around here. All you need to do is cover that high, because if this now becomes a 3-bar swing, this would definitely be a high I don't expect to get violated on USDCAD, and aim for this target, or potentially aim for a higher time frame target if it really will kick from here and we have some good RR, and you'll definitely have some room to add positions once we start making that move down. USDCHF, not as clean, I would say. You know, it's not giving that move away the same way USDCAD has. And it's, you know, I would say in terms of like proximity and position where it is very similar to EU, right? It's still in that OTE zone. But if I was to favor one of the majors here for a position, right, instead of EU, I'd be keeping my eyes on USDCAD. I've got a feeling it will kick harder than USDCHF will, just for the time being. And I believe USDJPY still is not going to be something of interest to us. And as we can see, it's not. Sweeps on both sides, massive sweeps, and straight up back into the range, back into that premium. Just looks like it wants to be sideways for now. Nothing to do here. Gold, massive kick, still going. We expected this week, we wanted to sort of see if it will come sweep into here. But what we can see is we've had a very big expansion. The candles are getting slightly smaller here. It wouldn't surprise me if now we get a bit of relief. You know, price is starting to get a bit sideways near the top, and we actually come down for somewhat of a retracement. If we're looking at the daily chart, we can expect this low to hold for now. We may come into that premium, potentially sweep previous weekly low, and then go from there. The new previous weekly low being here, and then go from there. That's something I'll be considering for the time being. S&P, quite similar, still going, kicking hard. You know, we did expect more for a retracement. What we see right on the Wednesday, on the day of the FOMC, you got a big retracement into this daily fair value gap, and from here I would expect continuation. I don't expect price to come and violate this. Though the weekly chart looks very one-sided for the time being, I think it just carries on. There's no reason for us to come and, you know, especially if, you know, price is open around here, it has to move very far to sweep previous weekly low. So that's not something that's currently on my radar. I would anticipate into the retracements that we sort of just move back into this range on the hour, see this sort of range that we've built with that news low that we don't expect to go, and see if we can get sort of sweep within this to go higher for the new coming week. And lastly, not least, it's always Bitcoin. Big move up. What we expected, what we wanted to see. We spoke a lot about this, specifically this fair value gap and how we wanted to treat it. If we closed inside, we expect to see price push a little bit higher instead of, you know, a move away. Now, what we do see is that we've got a bit of a 4-hour consolidation, as Bitcoin usually does. I'd be anticipating a sweep on these lows around 114k to then push higher. I would expect continuation for the coming week. There's, you know, looking at this weekly candle, there's probably a very good case for a previous weekly low sweep, but from there we actually want to see continued expansion this way. Right, pretty simple, but it's a nice chart at the moment. But yeah, guys, that is it. As usual, any questions at all, anything I can help with, please just drop me a message.